report.
And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Hefner. Next, we have public participation, and I will read our policy. It says, "The board welcomes and encourages public participation. We respectfully ask that you adhere to the procedures and the decorum provided in Board Policy BEDH, public participation at meetings. Your comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Questions asked during public participation and placed in writing will receive a written response in a timely manner." All right, the first is Mr. Thad Miller.
Dr. Hefner, Board, Chairman. I first want to thank you for allowing me to briefly speak to you this evening. I'm before you tonight to bring to your attention a common practice in the school district and at Irma High School, which a few weeks ago ultimately cost me my position as an assistant varsity soccer coach for Irma High School the last 12 years. On the afternoon of February 27th, I was instructed to drive one of 2 vans to Rock Hill for a soccer tournament that weekend. These vans were authorized, approved, and paid for by the Irma AD, Reggie Kennedy, who even was at Enterprise when picked up the vans and checked to make sure everything was good. On the way to Rock Hill, the head coach received a call from District Transportation notifying him of a passenger vans are not permitted to take the team to Rock Hill. There was a conversation between the head coach and transportation head Dave Wiseman that alternate transportation would be in Rock Hill the next morning. To resolve this oversight as quickly as possible, Mr. Wiseman sent a bus to the next morning to Rock Hill, and this bus was used the remainder of the trip. He mentioned to a parent that he was glad nothing happened and it was a simple mistake and glad he was able to get this resolved. As you can see by the email, and this is a copy of that, by the email that's being passed out that was sent to all the head coaches at Irma are encouraged to drive these vans as much as possible. Now, where in the email, or any email for the matter, does it mention the use of these vans is in a violation of South Carolina state law or Jacob's law? To date, I still have no materials or information on this law. I've never been made aware, trained, or told by anyone in District 5, AD, or the principal at Irma that transporting students in vans were in violation of Jacob's law in the 12 years I've coached in this district. If I was aware of this law, I would have never driven the van and was only following my supervisor's instructions. More importantly, the AD who authorized, approved, and rented these vans should have known we were unable to take these vans and not let us leave Columbia with these students. He also was unaware of the policies and laws. As I mentioned before, I feel as if I was a casualty of a common practice that has recently been going on at Irma and in District 5. I also feel Ms. Brown's recommendation to relieve me from my coaching duties and ultimately upheld by Dr. Hefner was unjust and costly to my reputation. I feel I should have received a reprimand or possibly suspension of games, but I feel I received the death sentence of coaching termination. If that is what truly is about the student's safety, I would have never been at Enterprise that day, the head coach and AD getting these vans. I would still be coaching today at Irma. I am asking the board to take an in-depth and independent look at the transportation practices at this district, Irma High School, debate team, wrestling team, girls soccer, as well as other schools in the district, if you are genuinely concerned for the safety of these student athletes. It has happened this year at Irma as recently as 2 weeks prior to the Rock Hill trip. You should be able to find a paper trail that will lead you to every van rented, as well as the coach or AD involved in the rental. I am an Irma All-American and graduate and have always been proud to be a part of the Yellow Jacket community. I have volunteered in this position 10 of my 12 years as an assistant coach, and I've never had one blemish or issue with this district. It saddens me to be before you today. I want to be sure you know the truth about this situation, since my voice doesn't get equal treatment being a non-district assistant coach, just doing what I was instructed to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. The next person who signed up for public participation is Ms. Murphy.
Good evening. I'm somewhat puzzled of your capital projects budget that you've been presented with. It's different than in previous years. You're going to approve a 5-year and a 20-year capital plan, and that's all well and good. The problem is that throughout the years, the plans are approved, but each year another one is developed, almost like the other one was non-existent, and I'm hopeful that it's not for show. But this year is even more puzzling. It doesn't appear that you are approving a list of needed initiatives and equipment for the individual schools like in the past. Things like books, vacuum cleaners, musical instruments, tables, and chairs, et cetera, aren't part of the budget you're approving, at least not what's been put out to the public. Your budget doesn't have a list. It's just one lump of money called school identified needs. Without an approved list of annual maintenance items, it's difficult for the schools to know what's anticipated. It's also puzzling that for the last several years or so, the amount going to the schools for their annual needs has averaged over $1 million. But this year, that lump of sum is not even $400,000. And in the new initiatives for the bigger ticket items like carpet repair, painting, irrigation repair, plumbing, tile work, et cetera, mulch for playgrounds, those items didn't make the list either. The budget is now predominantly HVAC and roof repair. I'm also puzzled that the overall amount you are approving tonight for capital projects, capital improvements, is several $1 million less than what has been allocated in previous years. That doesn't make any sense because the taxes you are collecting each year from the 52.5 millage rate has continued to increase since 2008. Again, the taxes that you collect each year that are specifically to go to capital improvements as opposed to taxes you collect to go towards operating our schools, paying our teachers, has continued to increase, but the portion that is going to the schools and maintenance is less. So where's the extra money going that you're collecting? There are a couple of reasons that I can think of. If these aren't them, please tell me. We know that you ran out of bond referendum money because the projects, some were over budget, and that projects such as a 30,000 square foot field house and a 600-seat auditorium were built that weren't part of the referendum. Because tax dollars went to those projects that weren't part of the referendum, what was advertised in it, you know, maybe you're trying to use this money to build the elementary school now. I don't know, because that didn't get built. Another possibility that might be is that you're saving these taxes for other projects. And if you're doing that, you need to share it with the public. And at the last board meeting, I heard it mentioned that there were other initiatives that were on a list that didn't make it to the bond referendum that you'd like to do. Well, I just want to make sure that our schools are taken care of and that you're open with the public. Also, the capital projects
Is the
budget.
time up?
Yeah, I just want to
Mr.
say,
Harris?
it's not on the
No.
website. They used to be published on the website.
If you'll talk to Mr. Bounds, that would be great. And just to answer one question, we have continuing legal fees, and that's where a lot of our money is going. So next is our action agenda, and we have items considered in executive session.